Well, my children here, my kids, my old kids, want me to tell about my birthday party. I think it might have been my 7th or 8th, I'm not sure which. But it certainly was right around the time when we didn't have much money for anything. But that didn't stop me. As my birthday neared, I went around and asked all the kids on the playground to my birthday party. And one of their parents said to my mother, "My goodness, you're having a very large birthday party for Mary, aren't you?" And she said, "I am." So she got me aside and she said, "Would you mind telling me who you've invited to your birthday party?" And fortunately she had a pen and a pencil and a pad, so I recited all the ones that I could think of, which was just literally everybody in the apartment complex, plus a few other friends that lived somewhere else. So she managed to put it all together. She even tied a bow in my hair. And as I recall, we had a wonderful time. I'm sure she could have throttled me if she could have gotten away with it. But anyway, that's how it happened.
So how old were you when you went to Lincoln? So how was it going to school, and then take us on up through what happened in Lincoln?
When we arrived in Lincoln, it was actually, we arrived in Lincoln on New Year's Day, and that's another story. You remind me to tell. But and when my mother took Pete and me to the school to enter us, the school principal looked at our grades and so forth and so on, and I think that at that point I was a half a year ahead of Peter, so he decided that since my grades a half a year ahead of Peter were not as good as Peter's grades, that we should go into the same class. And as it turned out, that was probably exactly right, because I had been promoted only because they needed room at PS 32. They literally came into the classroom and said, "Give me your 6 brightest students," and I probably was 6. And I was completely at sea. From that point on until we moved to Lincoln, I didn't know what was going on in the classroom, literally. So Lincoln was a great boost for me, and I immediately started to become a very good student. And Peter, too. And as a matter of fact, we turned out to be the best students in the class for a while. After a while, some other family came into town, and they were equally or even more bright than we were. But in any case, we enjoyed ourselves to a great degree because of that. And Lincoln School was wonderful in other ways, not so much in the wintertime because there's not much you can do in the playground in the winter. But when spring came, we all went out to the playground and everybody played baseball. Now, Pete and I had never been exposed to baseball. We didn't have the first idea what a baseball team was, how you played baseball. But of course, it was either stand around and just stare or play baseball. So we both struggled away, and before long, we both got to be pretty good players. In fact, if I do say so, I have to say so, I ended up being the captain of the girls' baseball team and the pitcher. And then I got to Concord High School and they didn't have girls' baseball. Oh my God, that was a terrible thing to have happen to me. Did you want me to go on about it? Oh,
yeah.
Clear my throat?
Yes.
Excuse me. Let's have a clear glass of water. This is really just water. Now, do you want me to just go on about high school, or is it more about Lincoln?
That's great. More about, no, I think it'd be great to hear about
shifting into the high school and,
Well, we had a wonderful time in Lincoln.
well,
We-
didn't you have a big singing career and?
Yeah, well, that was really, I think that was something that was wonderful for me. When we were first in the house in Lincoln, the owner of the house let us have it redecorated, and so for a number of weeks after we got there, we had painters and paperers in the house, and they were all local people. Lincoln wasn't a very big town. I think at that time there were only 2,000 people living in the town. And one or two of the people that were there sang in the Episcopal choir. And they said there's a new kid in town that's got a pretty good voice. So Mrs. Weatherby, or I think it was Miss Weatherby, I'm not sure, who was the organist at the Episcopal Church, came down to speak to my mother and see if it would be okay if I sang in the choir. And so I showed up for choir rehearsal, and then on Sunday when I got there, they put me in a little gown and we marched down the aisle 2 by 2, and I had seen this before in churches, so I knew exactly what I was supposed to do. And so when we got down to the altar, the girl on my right went to the right and I went to the left, and I quickly realized that everybody was going to the right, so I had to scoot back across the altar. But that was just a minor little detail. So that was the beginning of my church-going career. And the interesting part about it was that as much as I loved the music, and I always have loved church music, I used to sit and listen to you had to sit and listen to the minister. There you were right up front, and you had to sit for at least 20 minutes and listen to the minister go on. And I can remember saying, even at that age, boy, is this a lot of hooey. Because Harry and Rose were very definitely, what's the word I'm looking for?
Agnostic, atheist?
They just didn't go to church. So years later, when I was married and living in Concord, before I got married though, Bill and I were, this is a whole other story, but when Bill and I became engaged, that's the phone.
Okay.